Okay, we need to talk about something huge that just happened. We're talking about a groundbreaking announcement that literally flips decades of nutritional advice on its head. For years, we've all been following a certain set of rules about healthy eating. Well, that rulebook just got torn up. So let's break down what this historic shift really means for you, and maybe even more importantly, for your kids and grandkids.
And listen, this isn't just some small update. A top official at the Food and Drug Administration said this, and it really captures just how massive this is. We're witnessing the end of an entire era of so-called medical dogma. The advice that has shaped how we've all fed our families for generations.
All right, so let's get into this historic declaration. We're going to look at what's changing, why it's changing right now, and what finally pushed the US government to make such a dramatic U-turn. And it all starts with a pretty stunning admission. For decades, the official advice that we all trusted, it was based on flawed information. This is a massive course correction, an apology, really, for guidance that has deeply, deeply affected our country's health.
And you know who's been hit the hardest by this? Our youngest generation. This isn't just about some new diet trend. This is about an entire generation of children whose health is in serious jeopardy because of the advice that we, the adults, were told to follow.
So just how at risk are they? Well, a recent study in a major medical journal found that a shocking 60 to 70% of the calories our kids are eating now come from ultra-processed foods. Think about that. That's not just a part of their diet, that's the majority of their diet. And the result of that diet? It's devastating. Today, 40% of our kids are suffering from a chronic disease. Just let that sink in for a minute. We're talking about conditions like diabetes and heart disease, things we used to think only affected older adults, now showing up in nearly half our children. So what are these ultra-processed foods anyway? Well, think less about food from a farm and more about formulations from a factory. They're scientifically engineered to be packed with refined carbs and tons of sugar, but they're missing the good stuff, the protein and nutrients that growing kids desperately need.
And let's be crystal clear about something. As this quote says, this isn't because our kids lack willpower. This is a direct consequence of the bad advice given by institutions we were supposed to trust. We, the adults, unintentionally created this mess, and now it's really up to us to fix it.
So, how on earth did we get here? Where did this terrible advice come from? To get to the bottom of it, we have to look back at that old, flawed, and frankly corrupt food pyramid that so many of us grew up with.
You see, the old way of thinking got everything backwards. It made us terrified of natural, healthy fats, the kind you find in eggs and steak. But at the same time, it completely ignored the real villains, refined carbs and all that hidden sugar. And maybe worst of all, it recommended protein levels that were just dangerously low for anyone, especially for our kids.
And why was it so wrong? Well, it turns out it was all based on flawed science from way back in the 1960s. These old models just flat out miscalculated what our bodies actually need. The guidelines were basically designed to prevent outright starvation, not to help people actually be healthy and thrive.
Okay, so that was the problem, but now, thankfully, we're finally setting the record straight. So let's talk about the solution. Let's look at the new science of health, which gives us a clear, simple path forward for our families.
And the shift is it's night and day. Just look at this. The old dogma told us to fear fat. The new science prioritized protein. The old way ignored carbs and sugar. The new way says get rid of ultra-processed foods and avoid added sugars. It's a total 180, and it's all based on modern, solid science. The biggest change here is all about protein. The new guidelines are calling for an increase of 50 to 100%. And why such a huge jump? Because protein is literally the building block for our kids' bodies and brains. The old advice was about surviving. These new guidelines, they're about helping our kids thrive. So, what does this all mean for us, right now, today? It means that as parents, and especially as grandparents, we're on the front lines. We have the power to protect our families by putting this new science to work, starting with the very next meal we make. When we switch to this new way of eating, we start to fix the root causes of so many health problems. We're talking about fighting insulin resistance, reducing that constant low-grade inflammation that wears our bodies down, both of which are fueled by a diet low in protein and high in sugar. This is how we build real, lasting health from the inside out. And you know what? The benefits go way beyond just feeling better. When we eat healthier, we get sick less and we rely less on medications. It's like one doctor said, the best way to lower drug prices is for people to stop taking drugs they don't need.
It's common sense, right? So we'll leave you with this question. For decades, we followed flawed advice. Now we finally have the truth, backed by science, to protect the people we love most. The old dogma is over, so the question is, how are you going to use this to change your family's very next meal?